Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kristen and this is my little corner of the internet where I share with you how knitting and other fiber crafts have woven into my life. Today's video is episode 83 of my podcast, and in these podcasts I like to sit down and share with you all my finished objects and all the projects that I'm currently working on. It's just a little monthly catch up on all the projects that I am working on to give you a little update on my thoughts. It keeps me accountable to keep my Ravelry updated and just share with what I'm making. Now, if you notice, I did say monthly here at the beginning, and that is because I am going to change a little bit about how I'm making videos here on YouTube. If you've noticed, I've shared recently a few vlogs about my mystery MusiKAL that I've been working on, and I've really been enjoying filming and making and sharing those vlogs with you. And so I wanted to create a little more space in my filming schedule and my life to incorporate more vlogs as I work on projects. So with that, kind of what I'm thinking with these podcasts, I'm thinking I'm going to move these more to a monthly kind of status update. I'll share with you all the projects, finished objects from the previous month, and then hopefully that'll allow me a little more time throughout the rest of the month to share some other ideas that I have in my head, including like vlogs or stash tours, different types of things. Yeah, I just think it'll be nice to kind of vary up the content a little bit, and I've just really been enjoying the vlogs, this like the little snippets instead of having to like sit down and film. And sometimes these podcasts, you know, I have to allot a good chunk of time to both the filming and the editing. So yeah, I know that's a little bit of the behind the scenes, but just so you know, kind of going forward, kind of what I'm thinking. And I hope you enjoy the vlogs and type of different content. But that way, if you aren't more of a vlog person or you're more in a podcast mood, I'm still going to post these monthly, but then incorporate a few other videos throughout the month. So with all of that being said, it's been about 6 weeks since my last podcast. My last one was about mid-September, and it is now early November, so I'm doing a recap for October and the end of September. We ended up going to, I don't remember where we went, but I had a conference in October, and just, it's been a little while since I've recorded is the moral of this story. And yeah, so I have a good chunk of things to share with you today, so this might be a lengthier podcast. I am still drinking some coffee this morning. This is my little ghost mug from Staircase Ceramics. I love this mug. It is one of my favorites. But I hope you have something to drink. I hope you have something to work on, and I hope you're excited to see what I've been up to. As always, if you'd like to follow me other places, I'm Do So Knits on basically all of the social media, YouTube, Instagram, Blue Sky, Ravelry, and then in the description box down below, I do have show notes so that you can reference my Ravelry project pages, jump around to different timestamps. I like to include timestamps for all the different projects, and those, whenever I talk about a project in a video, that's linked on my Ravelry page as well. So right here at the beginning, we'll just dive right on into what I am wearing, and this is my first finished object for today. And so this is my clay tee, which is by Ozetta. It's a DK weight pattern. It's originally written for fingering weight held double, but I knit it in DK. I used Knit Picks Cotton, which is a cotton and linen blend yarn, and I used the color Coffee, and I have finished it. I really like this t-shirt. It's got a really lovely drape with the cotton, and I did do it kind of an oversized fit. So I did the size 3XL, which should equate to about a 52-inch bust. I do need to take final measurements, and when I do, I will have those on my Ravelry project page. Did I follow this to the pattern? Not exactly. I did make a few modifications. Specifically for the neckline, I did include 2 extra increase rows on either side in order to get a nice neckline that I liked, because prior to these extra increase rows, whenever I was trying it on, it was hitting my glasses. So I added just a few more increased rows to adjust that depth a little bit. And my row gauge was off from the pattern, so it could have been because of that. Even though the pattern does say to knit to a specific length, I did knit to that length and then kind of joined for the neckline. I'm unsure. I am happy with the neckline with how it is sitting now. I like how close it's fitting. This is like my ideal neckline. As I mentioned when I was talking about my Tolsta, that neckline was really wide. It's just not my favorite. This neckline I think fits really, really nicely. So I am quite happy with this. For all the edges, they were supposed to be like a rolled neckline and then rolled hems and things. I was not a big fan when I did the rolled neckline. I had done it on the collar here and it like kind of rolled, but like didn't roll. So what I ended up doing is I ripped back and I just did 3 garter bumps for all of my finishes. So that's what I did on the bottom of the shirt, on the sleeves, and then on the collar. I just did garter rows and then did a sewn bind off. And I think that looks really clean. I think it matches the vibe of the like texture throughout the pattern or throughout the shirt, and it prevents that rolling at the bottoms and the, I don't know, the rolled, like kind of rolled and it kind of didn't, so it just kind of looked kind of weird. And I'm very happy with this like garter edge here. I also mentioned last time that I was pretty worried about yarn chicken. So I did end up ordering more skeins of the Cotton from Knit Picks. I ordered 2 more skeins just to be safe, and that was to match the amount of recommended yarn that Ozetta writes in the pattern. That yarn ended up coming in and I didn't even need the 2 extra skeins. I was able to knit this with a total of 380 grams or 7.6 skeins of the Cotton because it's 50 gram skeins. So I came in under the 400 grams. I didn't need to order 2 more. I did shorten the sleeves because you're supposed to pick up and knit a little bit, because you're supposed to get this all the way to your elbow. But with how oversized I did the drop shoulder, I didn't add any length. I just picked up, knit my 3 rows of garter, and did my sewn bind off, and I think the length is at a good spot. And yeah, so it is really not that cropped. I mean, it goes to a little past my belly button. That's kind of my go-to length. So it's like not super cropped. It works with like high-waisted, but I don't know. So I now have a few extra skeins of Cotton, and like I had mentioned, I'll just like make dishcloths or something with those because it's a cotton and linen blend. I should be able to do like dishcloths or washcloths with those. Overall, I thought the clarity of the pattern was really great. I really like Ozetta's patterns. I think it fits really nicely. It's like a nice oversized boxy fit. I have not worn it a ton because I wanted to try to keep it pretty and for you, but I do have some finished object photos of when we went up to a cabin to just kind of get out of the city, and the wood cabin was a cool background. So I do have some finished object photos that I'm pretty proud of. And I really like how it looks. The construction with the shoulder was a lot of fun. And just like the constant like getting to the, like, is it a purl row or a knit row to like build the texture was a lot of fun. So I really enjoyed making this sweater. I was able to do it pretty quickly. I started it at the end of August and finished it in September. So that took me about a month, which is pretty exciting. And yeah. I really like this shirt. It got me 8 skeins out of my stash. It was kind of a spur of the moment cast on. I'd finished my Tolsta. I was like, oh, I really want to make another t-shirt. And so I was able to just squeeze this in before fall really came around. And I was able to get both my, I had bought in Cotton last year to make t-shirts with. So I was able to get both of those out of my stash this summer. So that's pretty proud of myself for that. I was trying to think if there's anything else, but I don't think so. I think that is basically everything when it comes to this. I would recommend the pattern. I would make it again. yeah, I mean, the only thing really is that this yarn does bleed. The brown bled, the blue bled, so just be aware of that when it comes to cotton. Just wash it separately is my main takeaway. But yeah, that's my clay tee. Now, because it's been a little bit, I actually have finished another garment as well. And so this is my High Tide Shell by Lindsay Fowler. I started this back in April, but I have finally finished it in October, and here it is. So this is a vest. It is a worsted weight vest. I used 3 colors. They are Blue Sky Woolstock Worsted. My main color is this dark chocolate. My light brown is called Driftwood, and then the chartreuse is called Golden Meadow. Like I mentioned, this has been on my needles for quite a while, but I was really close to actually finishing this. So I had like 1 or 2 repeats before I needed to do the front and back. And once I got to that, it really went pretty quickly. I knit this with US 7 for the main and then US 6 for all of the ribbing accents. The ribbing is done in the dark brown, your main color. And this is all of a, it's a slip stitch kind of mosaic pattern. So it's really easy to do, but the rows do grow pretty slowly because essentially you have to knit each row twice. You knit it once with the color and then you knit it again with the slip stitches in order to get this kind of cool, almost like woven kind of texture. I think it looks really, really neat. I did the size 6, which is about a 52-inch with my gauge. So similar size to this, but because I plan to wear this over like long sleeve t-shirts, I did want it to be a little more oversized. I did mention last time that I was thinking of doing some extra decreases after splitting for the sleeves in order to like size down for the upper chest. And I did do a lot of math when it came to that, but ultimately ended up deciding that I was going to do no decreases. The reason for that was because the size 6, which is the size I was making, and the size 5 ended up decreasing and had the same stitch count for the front and for the shoulders. So if I had wanted to decrease again, it would have decreased down to the size 4. And then I was just worried, like, okay, was that going to be too small? Also, the math was just like not the easiest. And when it came to like how it was looking, I thought it looked okay. So I didn't do any extra decreases for that. I ended up following the pattern exactly. I did end up adding 1 extra pattern repeat to the front in order to accommodate my bust, just so the front didn't rise up too much. And so I did 1 extra repeat. It ended up making my front and the back have the same amount of pattern repeats. And then followed everything exactly when it came to the decreases. The front neckline is just a little more down, and yeah, I really enjoyed it once I got to like these, once I split, because the rows got so much shorter. And then, you know, you're working like, okay, we are basically decreasing every round for the armhole or decreasing for the neckline. So it was really, you know, something nice, and it went really quickly. One thing that I did find confusing was how the pickup for the armholes was written, because it says to pick up, how is it worded? I don't exactly remember how it was worded, but it said something like, it should be pretty easy because you'll pick up a stitch for every color change. And so when I read that, I thought I was picking up a stitch for every like slip stitch, like so 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's what I did at first. And I was like, I was nowhere close to the recommended stitch count, which is sometimes okay, but there was not nearly enough stitches. And so what I figured out is it was basically, I was supposed to pick up 1 stitch in each color for the color change. So like this stripe has two colors, so it was two, like, picked up one for the driftwood and one for the dark brown, one for the gold, one for the light brown. So at first I picked up half the number of stitches that I was supposed to. I figured it out pretty quickly. It was just the way it was worded confused me. Also, the one side you're carrying your colors up so that you don't have a ton of ends to weave in. And so that side where you're carrying your colors, the picking up the stitches was a lot harder to see. And so that side took me a lot longer compared to the other side where you weren't coloring or carrying colors. It was really easy to pick up from that side. It's just a little frustrating because you start at the underarm and then you go up. And so the first side that you pick up is the side where you're carrying your colors, and the second side is the one where you're not. So like if I had started at the shoulder and gone down, you could get a nice like little flow figuring it out and then do the harder side, but we did the harder side first. But I think that was just like a learning curve of mosaic, because it's the first time I've done a mosaic and just picking up. For the arms, you do a little Kitchener grafting, so you can kind of see it right there. That was pretty easy considering I feel comfortable doing socks. And then for the armholes, I did modify to doing a tubular bind off. So I did 3 rows of the ribbing and then 2 rows of the setup and then my sewn bind off, which you're probably not going to be able to see because it is so dark, but I did that on all of my finishes. And I'm so excited to have this now that it's fall. It's kind of that perfect weather right now where like it's a little chilly, but some days are a little warmer. So like I can wear a long sleeve shirt and pop this on over it. That's kind of my goal. I haven't had any finished object photos, but I'm hoping one day soon in the coming week, I can do that as a little photo shoot. But this is my high tide shell. I fell in love with it, got the yarn for my birthday. I do want to talk about the different yarns that I used. So I used Woolstock Worsted by Blue Sky for all of my colors. I loved working with this yarn. It's 100%, let's see, it is a 100% wool by Blue Sky Fibers. It's a worsted weight. I loved working with it. It really didn't split. It works really nicely. It's just really lovely to work with. Soft, but not like super soft, but not scratchy. Definitely liked it. For my size, I knit the size 6. It called for what I needed. I ended up buying 2 skeins of my dark brown color. On the Woolstock Worsted, the main color, the dark brown, was in a 150 gram skein. So I bought 300 grams because it said like I needed a good amount of that. I only used 165 grams of this main color. And I didn't crop this, so this is like what I ended up doing. So I could have gotten away with getting like a 150 and then a 50 gram skein, but I have a good amount of this left over, essentially a whole skein worth. But 165 grams of this color. For the driftwood, that was my first contrast color. I used 90 grams of that. And then for the Golden Meadow, I used 92 grams of that. So roughly the 2 contrast colors that you have in here, you use roughly about the same amount. And then I used more of the main color because that's what the ribbing, and then all the collars are done in. So yeah, I definitely came in under yardage from what was recommended, which I mean is always my preference. I have a good amount left over, so maybe I'll try to find, so I'm gonna see, maybe I can find like a color work hat or something that I can use those leftovers in. But that is my high tide shell, and I'm sure you can hear Sherlock. I'm going to go help put the groceries away. I have one final finished object to share with you, and that is a pair of socks. So these are socks that I made for my husband Shane. These are made with Regia Perfect. It is the colorway Fall Night, and it does this whole self patterning on these socks. So these are really a lot of fun to work with because you just knit and it just like makes this really cool design. I cast on 60 stitches at the cuff, and I did a 2x1 cuff, which has kind of been my go-to cuff recently. You knit. You're supposed to knit the cuff until this color change happens, but that would have been a really long cuff. So I did 17 rounds of cuff. Then I just started working on the leg. You then work the leg until you get to this color. I then did a shadow wrap heel, and then you knit the foot, and then you get a ending color here. So there was still more gray, but it kind of does this nice like cuff, heel, and toe kind of effect. You get like a little bit of a longer toe and a longer cuff to accommodate if anyone has a bigger stitch count, because I do 60 stitches, but you can do these socks with really any stitch count, which is what's really cool about this sock yarn. It's just like magical. I haven't weighed these yet, but I mean, I used basically the entire skein of yarn, and that's just kind of because of how they're designed. Overall, I have this much left over. So this is just the gray. And then I'll just probably save this to do other heels, toes, and cuffs. It's just a solid gray. But yeah, there's really not a ton to say about these. I just did my normal vanilla sock recipe, 60 stitches, shadow wrap heel, and then a round toe. And yeah, I just really enjoyed working on these. I started them in September. It was on our way back from Wisconsin Sheep and Wool and visiting Shane's parents. I started them on the flight, and then yeah, finished them last night, so November 1st. So they were on my needles for 2 months-ish, but they were kind of just my socks that were just set aside for whenever I needed some mindless knitting. So these are done. I'm very happy that they are done, and I love the Regia yarn so much. It's a virgin wool and polyamide mix, so they last forever. They just have a nice like kind of tooth to them, and yeah, I'm happy to like have used some of my Regia yarn. It's some of my favorites, so that is those. And so I'm happy to have these done. I like sat down last night because I was like, I just had the toes to do, and I was like, I just need to finish these. I need to get them off my needles. I need to just wrap them up. So that was what I did to, you know, sometimes you gotta set some deadlines for yourself. So Regia Socks are also done. I set that deadline for myself because I knew I was recording, and I didn't want to be like, these just have to do the toe. So I sat down and did it last night. So with that, we're going to move right into my works in progress. So what I've been working on since I last recorded. And so we'll start with the thing that has gotten the most progress over the last month. You might be able to guess what this is because I've been doing a separate vlog series, and that is because I am working on the Mystery MusiKAL, which is the mystery knit along hosted by Stephen West. I have just started Clue 4 this morning, and I'm going to show you where I'm at. So I do have end stoppers on these. I was smart and have incorporated those, but this is my shawl so far. And so I'm not going to go into like a ton of detail about this because I do have that separate vlog series, so please go check out those videos if you're interested in the process or what I've been thinking or what I've been making. But I'll do a quick rundown. These scallops, this little section right here, that was Clue 1, week 1. We then moved into this wave section with short rows. And so they have longer stripes over here, 2 shorter stripes here, and it all does this little wave effect. That was Clue 2, week 2. And then Clue 3 was this triangle section which looks really, really cool on the screen. And then this, like, they call it slip stitch. I think it looks like a basket weave, this section here. And so that's where I'm at. I've started Clue 4 as of this morning, which is a brioche border for the end. The shawl is massive. I have it on a pretty long chiaogu and it still is not fully stretched out. Let's see, I'm on a 37-inch cable. So technically I could put it on a longer cable, but I don't want it too much extra cordage going on, especially with the brioche. I do think the brioche is going to take me a little bit of time. I think doing one brioche pass this morning took me about 15 minutes, and we have I think it's 8 rows of brioche. So that's 15 minutes was one, so it's really 16. So it's gonna take me a while. But that's okay. I decided to not do the math on the camera. But if you want to hear more about my thoughts, what I'm thinking about this, please go check out those vlogs. I've really enjoyed taking you along my process while working with these, and I'm just loving seeing how the colors are playing. The yarn that I got is a kit from Fiber Hustle. I have 4 different colors. I did not pick the colors individually. They put the colors together and then I bought it. But I think this is the section. Well, we'll do the triangles. I think they're easiest to see here. So the darkest blue is my color A, which is called the Abyss. My color C, which is my color pop, is called Golden Kelp. Color D is this like tealy color, and that's called The Ring is Green. And then this like mid-tone blue is called Just a Spruce. So I love these, how they're playing together. You can really see the variation, but I think it looks really cool. I like that the chartreuse is like a nice little pop, but I mean, that was like kind of a similar pop in my, what project did I just show? My High Tide shell. So I'm really kind of leaning into like the blues and greens, and I'm just loving this. I was a little concerned with like the, you know, kind of more wavy over here, more geometric over here, but seeing it come together, I've really just been enjoying this process. So this has been my main focus. It's all fingering weight. I'm using a US 4. I'm loving working with the yarn. I'm loving the colors. It's just a fingering weight merino and nylon blend. And you know, this is a shawl that if I had seen the final product before I started, I probably wouldn't have cast it on. But like having spent time working on it, I've just really been enjoying the knitting process. And I'm just really trying to see, like, these Stephen West shawls are more, you know, I think Needles at the Ready said it, like they're showpieces. And I think that is very true. Like, they just look stunning, and that's what they're for, you know. Maybe it's not going to be my everyday, like, hard wearing shawl, but when I want to feel a little sparkly or a little more, you know, fun, need a little bit of color, these are the shawls that I pull toward. So I'm really loving it, and it's going to be massive, which means it's going to wrap around really nicely. So yeah, that is my mystery MusiKAL so far. Like I mentioned, if you'd like to see a little more how I've been going on, what I've been thinking, go check out those videos. But this has been the project that has gotten the most work over the last month. So the next projects I'm showing are a little more of like filling in the gaps of where I'm at right now. So my MusiKAL has been like my main focus, and then I've finished 2 garments. So I currently don't have a garment on the needles, but with that I have started, I've done a swatch. And so this is done in Les Garçons British DK in the colorway Vincent's Highland Coup. I am planning to make the So Basic DK for Shane. So I've made up the swatch. I still need to, you know, I've blocked it. I just need to do some measurements, see post blocking, see if my gauge is going to work out. I am really liking the top half of this swatch right now. So this is a DK weight yarn. I swatched on a US 5 and a US 4. And so, like I said, I just need to do some of the preliminary measurements. I need to measure Shane, figure out what size sweater we want to make. And so this is probably going to be the next garment that I cast on. And I think that one will be a nice, like, not too brain intensive kind of project, because it is going to be a raglan sweater, stockinette. There's a little texture on the sleeve. So I think it'll be a nice, like, kind of a mindless project, because some of the other sweaters that I like to make for myself do involve a little bit more brain power. Specifically, I really would like to start, wow, I do not remember the name. It's a cardigan by Andrea Mowry. I've had the yarn for a while. The tessellated cardigan. And that's another mosaic. So I just finished a mosaic pattern, so I know that one is going to take a long time. I know that is one of the comments that people make about that sweater. So I'm thinking like that might be my sweater that I cast on once my MusiKAL is done, but this would be a nice little easier garment to throw in between. So I've swatched, I've blocked the swatch, just need to do some measurements. I really like the yarn. It's soft, but it does have a little bit of tooth. It is British DK, so it is a, I'm pretty sure it's BFL and Masham, but it's nice. It's like lightweight, but a little toothy, so hopefully it's not too scratchy. But Shane picked out this color, and I think it's a really lovely color. So that's like not a work in progress, but like a soon to be work in progress. And I guess that's one of my questions, like when does a swatch count as starting a whip, or is this like preliminary? In my brain, this is like preliminary. I haven't cast on yet, but it is always like an important part of the process. So yeah, that is this so far, with no specific, I mean, I know what I'm doing. It just hasn't started yet. So that's that. The other things that I've been working on is I did start another pair of socks, because I actually started these socks to take with me to my conference, which I went to in October. Because the Regia Socks were pretty much close to being done, I decided to bring a new pair of socks. And so these are vanilla socks that I'm knitting for Shane's grandma. She asked for some when we went and visited her. So I went stash diving. I sent her some pictures of yarn. She really liked this color. And so this is Life in the Long Grass Twist Sock. It's a superwash merino and nylon blend, and this is the colorway Earth and Wave. So it's just like a really nice like clay kind of pink. And so I cast on 60 stitches, did a 2x1 ribbing, and then I felt like the sock was just a little wide, so I decreased down to 58 stitches. And I've now started the heel flap. I'm working on a shadow wrap heel right now, and I'm doing that over 30 stitches. So I'm doing a 58 stitch sock, but the heel flap is over 30. Overall, I did 15 rounds for the cuff, and then I did 50 rounds of the leg. So yeah, these are just vanilla socks. Easy peasy for on the go. Yeah, this yarn is nice, but it feels a little thicker compared to some of the other yarns I've been using. I just feel like it's not as round as some other yarns. Like I feel like I really see the stitch definition in these, which is kind of nice. So yes, this is just a simple sock to have on the go. The other kind of on the go project is a Jaunty Shawl that I've started. So I'm sure you've seen these. This is a new pattern by Andrea Mowry. It is a shawl pattern that you can essentially make in, it's like an any gauge kind of pattern, which is really cool. So I am using some of my hand spun This is Apothecary Fabrications for the fur. I spun this, so here's my hand spun. It's roughly a DK to sport. I have 2 skeins of this, so I plan to just do increases until this first skein is almost done, and then I'm going to do my decreases. As I'm knitting it, I think it looks really cool, like looking at the viewfinder. There's definitely lots of thick and thin in here. Like, I think you can definitely tell that it is hand spun. I also spun this, I think, when I was doing my, like, this is a little coarse. It's definitely, I think my singles were a little overplied, so they're a little rough. They're not like as like lofty or soft as they could be. And I think that's just because I've put too much twist in some of my singles. I've been working on that as I've been going. But what I do like about the half fisherman's rib is it's like really squishy. So it kind of helps counteract some of my lack of squish because I overplied it. But it's been fun to work on. I have my twice sheared sheep like even stitch counter here because you increase every 8 rounds. So I can just use this to count, and then when I get to 8 I know to do my increase. But I'm using a US 5, and this is a DK to sport weight yarn. I just didn't want it to be too tight, and it's hard to tell because I definitely have some spots where it's closer to like fingering weight, and then some spots that are closer to DK. So it's kind of just something in the middle. I like the color. I did start the shawl with another hand spun color, and then I just like wasn't in love with how the colors were playing, so I went for this one. It's kind of cool, kind of stripey. This is my first project that is like 100% hand spun. I've done other projects like shawls where like I mix it with like a commercial yarn, and that kind of evens out some of the, you know, bumps of the hand spun. But this is the first time I've just like dived into using just my hand spun. And it's been interesting. You know, my perfectionist part of me is like, ooh, you know, like that's really thin and this part's really thick. I could do this better. But I do think it helps learn too. Where I'm like, okay, yeah, I can tell that this is a little over twisted, or, you know, like, okay, I can ply a little bit less. But overall, like looking at it as a whole, you wouldn't necessarily know. I mean, I know because I'm being like very close and staring at it, but I mean, it's just fabric, and I made this yarn, and that's pretty cool. So this is my Jaunty. This is kind of just like a, I don't know, I cast it on because I wanted to and because I want the finished object. My Sophie shawl is one of my favorite shawls to wear, and so this is like a similar, same-ish kind of shape. So I'm excited to have this, and it's been fun to work on. And, you know, it's a no pressure, but very cool. So that's my Jaunty Shawl. So, and that's all of my knitting right now. I do want to share a little bit about my current spinning project. And so on my starling, I have started this spin. And so what I want to do with this is I want to make a Jaunty shawl because I just really love these colors. And so this is Hello Yarn Dreaming by Firelight. This was the Tour de Fleece color for Flannel and Pearl and Stitches by Starlight. Tour de Fleece color for 2024. I got the BFL and I got 8 ounces. So I split the 8 ounces in half. So I'm going to do a 2-ply. I'm spinning this pretty thin, which I'm pretty excited about. I'm just trying to aim for consistency. What I did with this as well is I split it in half. The first half I split into like 8 sections, and that's the part that I'm working on now. The other half I split into 6 sections. And I did that for, like I had 2 4-ounce sections. And so I split each of those in half and then did 8 and 8. Basically, I like intermixed the 2 braids so that they are mixed together and they're evenly split between my first half and my second half. But these color repeats on this first one are still pretty long. So I'm debating, because I'm spinning this 8 sections over here, so the 8ths. I'm debating for the 6th because those would be even longer color splits. And these color sections already feel pretty long. Like, do I split these 6 into smaller sections? Like maybe an 8 and a 12, like I split each of the 6th into half, just to get shorter color repeats. I still haven't decided. I'm still working through my first half. I've also tried with this. I went through and I steamed the whole braid before I split it, and I've pre-drafted, and so I'm really working on trying to get the yardage and not overspinning. And it's been a dream to spin. It's like not felted anywhere. It's just like really smooth, and I've really been enjoying it. I don't know if that's Hello Yarns, quality of fiber, or all the pre-work that I'd done, or a mix of both. I'm just really enjoying it, and I love these colors. And I started spinning this in the hopes of making a Jaunty Shawl, and then I started a Jaunty Shawl. So, you know, I can always change my mind, but I really love these colors. It's that kind of jewel tone, blues and purples with the little pops of orange. I just really, really love this color, and I love BFL. So that's kind of my idea with that. And so those are all the projects that I have. I do want to dive into a little bit of acquisitions that I have. I don't always share these, but I'm pretty excited about what I have right now. And then I wanted to share a little bit of my stash stats for the year. So acquisitions, I did place an order from Woollen & Co. because they have their new fall wool wash scents. And so I ordered 3 of the, I think these are all, I ordered all the fall scents, I think. Maybe I missed one. But I got the Sugar Pumpkin, which this is nice because it is it's like pumpkin-y, but not super pumpkin-y. You definitely get a little bit of like the spice element. It's really lovely. I then got Apple Bourbon. Which this one is definitely apple-y. If you ever gotten like Bath and Body Works apple, like it's a nice apple in here. And then I got vanilla and fig. This one is very vanilla-y, which is actually, I bought this. I was hoping it would be a little more figgy. It's very vanilla-y, and vanilla is not my like go-to scent, so this one might be one that I use when I block things for gifts, or I like to always have a little bit of wool wash to give to people when I make items, and I'll just order some like little small bottles, and I'll just like split this out, so I can always use that as well. But I love Woollen & Co.'s wool wash. Been using it a lot for like all my items lately. I love the scent because when you smell it in here, they don't smell super strong, but then you just add that little bit to the water and it really lasts. So I really like those scents, and the cost is really great. So I just wanted to share those. I'm very excited about them. I'm definitely a fall person, so I wanted to stock up on some of the fall scents. And the other thing that I wanted to show is what I got from Tempeh Yarn and Fiber. So my conference was in Phoenix, Arizona, and so I really wanted to check out a local yarn store, and so this is the one that I ended up going to. I ended up picking up, they had a ton of yarn, but they also had fiber, and I just fell in love with this color. So this is fiber from 316 Dye Studio. It's cool because it has these little like tweedy bits. It's a little more like pastel-y muted than what I sometimes go for, but I felt like this was still like in my color palette, but like slightly outside. So like it's not a super bright, which I don't tend to do, but I do kind of like the muted. And I thought with the really dark purples and colors in here, I'm excited to try it. So I picked these up. Very excited about those. I also got a few other things. So I put the small things in this little case, but I picked up this little sticker. I thought it was really cute. Mushrooms and a little frog knitting. I also got a Catrinkles tool. This is a Diz. And so with my blending board, a Diz is something that you can use to, if you use your blending board, you could then use this to make roving. And so if you wanted to do worsted spun instead of woolen spun, you like pull the yarn through one of these little holes. So that was there. I hadn't seen one of these in person, so I picked it up. So I'll add that to my little collection. And then I picked up this Shashiko kit. It comes in this really cool, it looks like a, you know, like those old pencil pouches that you had as a kid. But they had this as a sample sitting there, and I was just like, I really love that. So it is a Shashiko cloth. So it's a pre-printed design, and Shashiko is basically like just backstitch embroidery, but it's this snowflake pattern. So you can see some of the pre-printed on here. And it just looked really, really pretty. So the ink is all water soluble, so don't spray it beforehand, but you just stitch over these. It's just like a backstitch. And the color that they used was this like variegated red. It was so pretty. And so with Shashiko, you don't split any of the plies. It's just like a one ply and then backstitch. So I just thought this would be a nice kind of on the go Christmassy project. And they just had like the, they had a finished sample. And so I like was able to see what the variegated looked like, and it was just really beautiful. So it's a 13 3/4 by 19 3/4 finished size. Or sorry, that's the cloth. The finished is like 12 by 17. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I think they had it as like a little pillow, but I think there's a couple different options. I just really fell in love with it, and I could figure out how I want to finish it later. Maybe it's just like a wall hanging. I'm unsure. If you have any ideas on finishing, you can let me know. But I mean, I think this might be a fun, maybe a December project that I just work on. Or I could even start this month. I don't know. Just really, I really liked how it looked, and this little kit came with everything. So it comes with the Shashiko needle, the fabric, and then the thread. They also had like a Halloween one, which was cute, but I'm more of a winter girly than a Halloween. But yeah, so that was everything I picked up. It was a great little yarn store. I went one day because the conference started the first day in the afternoon, so I went the morning and just really had a fun time just like looking around, seeing all the different options that they had. So yeah, that's that. I do want to share a little bit about my stash stats, and so I haven't shared this in a little while, but my goal for 2025, which has been my goal for the previous few years, is to use more yarn than what I buy. And so I've done very well this year. For the months of September and October, September was a little crazy, and I brought in 29 skeins of yarn. I had some yarn that was on pre-order, plus there was Wisconsin sheep and wool, and then I also bought some Wool of the Andes sport weight, which is 50 gram skeins to make another traveler. So I had quite a bit of yarn in. Yarn out for these 2 months, I had 13. So I definitely had a positive of a good amount of positive change for these 2 months. However, for the year, I've brought in 74 skeins of yarn, but I've gotten out 100 skeins of yarn. Some of that is destashed, some of that is using in projects. So I'm at a negative 26 skeins for the year. And gram wise, I'm at a negative amount. I'm gonna round to make it easy, but I've brought in 7,500 grams. I've gotten out 8,700 grams. So a net of roughly 1,200 grams out. I am rounding up to keep it easy, but both gram wise and skein wise, I'm in the negative, which is very exciting. This is the first year I've incorporated tracking grams in addition to skeins, and that's been helpful for like projects and trying to use a little more of my scrap yarn as well. So I'm excited to see both those numbers be in the negative, because sometimes it's easier to get the skeins down but not the grams. So happy about that. Yeah, and that's basically everything I have today. If you like the video, please give it a like, subscribe to see my future videos. As I mentioned, if you'd like to see some of the vlogs, make sure to check those out. But otherwise, I will be back in about a month for my next podcast episode, and I hope to see you between then for some vlogs, but if not, I'll see you in a month. I hope you've put a little bit of love into every stitch of your making today, and I will see you in the next one.